Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Njp Podcast with me, Joe.
And I'm Nick.
And today we're going to be coming at you with the latest gaming news and Twitch trend. Okay, so first up, now this isn't actually on the agenda because this is something that I found out about half an hour ago. This is news or decent news for console fans, but in particularly if you own a Nintendo Switch, right? So there's a company called Marseille, and they have made a post-processing upscaler for consoles. Now, this will work on the original Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Now, apparently, this can... I've read a bit into it, and this can upscale your games to 1440p and 60 frames a second. If the frame rate is below 30, then it will upscale it to the full 4K at 30 frames a second. You can also upgrade your classic 480p consoles such as SNES to 1440p. Now, I've seen stuff like this before and I was a bit skeptical, but T3, who are actually I don't know if they're in America, but they're actually like a UK tech magazine. They were, now they're a website. T3 are known for their unbiased reviews, and they say that it's absolutely amazing. They have got plenty of comparisons on the actual website. Now, to get this to work, all you do is it goes in between your TV or monitor and your Switch. You just plug it in. It takes USB power, so it can be powered by the actual console itself. Or you can have it TV end, or you can have it right behind your console. The results are actually amazing, I gotta say. From the comparison pictures, you've seen these in the past and they've not been that great, but they are really raving about this, and I can see why. Retails at $99 with free shipping in the US. It's about £100 with shipping in the UK, and I imagine it would be the same for the rest of Europe. But your upscale, it's some serious upscaling, some serious improvement, with no need to mod your console or anything else like that. Now, obviously, come the end of the year, people are going to be upgrading to the Series X, the PS5, new consoles. But obviously, Nintendo Switch is halfway through its lifespan, and this is why I think it's particularly important for Nintendo Switch fans, because it's sort of like that update that the Switch probably isn't going to get. Like, we had the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, but this is going to add an option for Nintendo Switch fans. I'll put the link in the description. The results, I think, speak for themselves. And I think that this is going to be really, really popular. I've actually bought one, so I'm going to share my view on this next week, because literally I just saw it and bought it, because that's the kind of person I am. I've got problems, obviously. But it's literally... I
was thinking of catching it too.
Yeah, the website is a little bit misleading because it says 4K, 4K, 4K. That's only for frame rates below 30 frames a second, which you don't have on your Switch, PS4, or Xbox One. But there's a lot of argument between whether 4K is worth it and how close you have to sit anyway. But one of the biggest differences, you are going from 1080 to 1440, which is about where a lot of gamers now with PCs are sitting comfortably, because they're getting sharper images which they can see, and they're not having to use the power that 4K takes for stuff that they are unlikely to notice. But the good news is there's no extra latency, or barely, next to nothing. No extra latency, anything like that. And it does have the retro mode. So particularly if you do play retro games and or from the actual classic hardware and or stream them. But yeah, $99. I feel like I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. So I guess my other question is, my understanding is that with the Nintendo Switch, when you get a capture card, because there are capture cards that can go up to 60 FPS and some that have 30 FPS, right?
Right.
But my understanding is that Nintendo Switch caps at 30, correct? So if you have a capture card that can do 60 frames per second, Nintendo does not use that full 60 frames per second.
So yeah, no, the Switch is 60 frames a second. Your games will run at 60 frames a second.
Gotcha.
Your TV though might not be taking it 60 frames a second, depending how old it is. If you bought one in the last few years though, should be absolutely fine. But definitely, if you're a serious gamer, you're probably using a monitor as well. So So you're going to notice the difference even more in a proper monitor. The comparisons that on the article were on a TV. So if you can notice that kind of difference on the TV, then what's it going to be like on a monitor?
Yeah.
So I will test this out and we'll check out the results. See it next week.
I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. I will have more information next week as well, because it came up as somebody sent it me, and the article had just come out. I don't know how long they've been selling these for. Can't find out yet, but they come from
I'm really
California.
interested because for me, I guess I've never streamed Nintendo Switch. I have always kind of thought about it and wanted to not main it, but to have the option. And I guess I'm kind of curious, should I drop a lot of money on a capture card that can do 60 FPS, or do I need this as well?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, I guess for streaming, like we can't stream at 4K, right? Like but if you can make it look better, I guess at partner level, where you've got all the encoding for definite, you could definitely make your stream look that bit sharper, I think. But I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but I think if you take the look of your games seriously, then I would say probably.
As someone with a DSLR who just ordered a new lens, I can say I might be in that.
Exactly. So you want the best, right, Nick? So I would say why not? It's interesting on capture cards, actually, because I've read a lot of stuff about, like, I use the Elgato HD 60S. It's an external capture card. And most people have said to me who stream, they're like, oh yeah, always make sure your capture card's external. Always keep your capture card external. I don't know why. I guess it's just, I don't really know. I don't really know why. I've never really asked why. It's just what people say. So maybe we'll find out a bit more about that as well.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that in mind.
When I come back next week with the information on this Marseille M Classic, it's called, I will come back with more information about capture cards as well. Okay, so these are the stories then that I am a bit more prepared for. The new Call of Duty title has been leaked as Black Ops Cold War. Now, obviously, biggest game release of the year, second maybe after The Last of Us 2. It is what it is. We know the series, and that's all we know. It's just gonna be called Black Ops Cold War, so I'm guessing all set within the Cold War. I much prefer the older style than the zipping about with rocket boosters and stuff that they had in some of the advanced games. Not really much else to say about that, except that that's what it's going to be called. And on the back of that, Sony are going to announce a PS5 games lineup soon. Now, I feel like this is a response to Xbox, who have obviously been releasing games, releasing previews of games and what they're going to look like on the Series X. And we've still not seen that from the PlayStation side. And actually, this week, Xbox have been giving out their Series X. Well, they haven't been giving it out. Xbox have been inviting big YouTubers to go and check it out. One of them even dismantled it completely and then put it back together. Like, Xbox are showing that they're really, really proud of this. And they're getting it out now. Still no dates, but again, I think it's going to be who blinks first. But Sony's still with nothing. I think there's only, potentially 6 months, 7 months max. We've still seen nothing from Sony. I think we've only seen the controller as well. We haven't seen what the console looks like.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
We know what the specs are.
What their game plan is.
Yeah, we know what.
Like, what are they doing here?
We know what the specs are, and the Series X edges it, but I mean, I don't think it'll be a console selling difference in specs.
Yeah.
But basically, from the research I've done, a lot of the comparisons to a RTX 2070 PC graphics card, right? That's what they are potentially capable of, but don't think that they're going to run like a PC with an awesome processor and an RTX 2070. But you might see that towards the end of their lifespan when the developers really know how to push it. So we're sort of looking at mid-range PC. Now, this is what's being said, and it's like, well, PS5 is starting out, an Xbox Series X starting out, and it's going to be like a mid-range PC tech spec at launch.
Yeah.
So as the years go on, how badly is it going to fall in comparison? Because back in the day, consoles were up there. Never going to be a PC, but consoles were up there when they released, like PS2. And then they've just got less so over time. It's interesting.
Well, me, I'm a huge PC fan. I won't give up my PC. If I had to choose between having all the consoles in the world and my PC, I would absolutely choose my PC. But one of the things that's interesting, so you're talking about who blinks first, right?
Yeah.
And Xbox is showing all of this stuff, and PlayStation seems to be holding on to their cards and keeping it close to their chest. The problem with that is that so many people are going to prepare themselves to purchase an Xbox. They're going to hype themselves up for these games. They're going to put it into their budget. And with PlayStation waiting, what I'm curious about is that a bad move? Because now people are already set on getting the Xbox. And if they're only going to get one versus the other, they might say, well, I could get the PlayStation, but they've already had their heart set on Xbox for all the reasons that they've decided, right?
Right.
So I'm kind of curious if PlayStation's making a bad move by not releasing information yet.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like a standoff and then they're going to try and blow them out the water when all of Xbox's cards have been dealt. But there's a bit of misinformation out there as well on the back of this, because I've seen a lot of people on social media sharing stuff saying this is what it's going to be like on the PS5, and what they're actually sharing is the new Unreal Engine. Yeah. So, and that is not what it'll look like on the PS5. Like, categorically, a lot of people will be able to tell you that is not that video that you saw of the Unreal 5 engine is not what it'll look like on probably either console, but it is what it'll look like on a high-end PC. Mechanics in that, yes, but a lot of people think that's, for some reason, I don't know if it's because Sony haven't released anything yet, and people have just decided that's what PS5 is going to look like, but that's what people were sharing. I saw that firsthand on my social media.
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
Yeah, and they think that's PS5 graphics, but we have seen Series X gameplay. We've seen it. and it does look beautiful. It really does. So I'm really interested to see the first Sony video of actual gameplay.
Yeah. I guess I'm a little bit curious of what it is they're going to bring to the table. And I know we had mentioned before possibly being like a media station, so a way to play your movies for, your living room. But when you think about it, PCs can do everything a console can do, but better if you build the correct PC.
Yeah.
And so what exactly do consoles have over PC? Because in order to compete, they have to offer something that a PC can't.
Yeah.
And I'm just having troubles finding that, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, a lot of the games that were for Xbox and for PlayStation were not available on PC. So clearly they had that. That's not really the case anymore. A lot of it's cross-platform.
No, yeah, there's yeah, they are much better at porting now than they were years ago, and it's a lot easier to do as the consoles are becoming much more similar to PCs in their architecture as well. See, you could, by the time it comes out, you could probably get a micro case PC, like one of the smallest ones with the smallest motherboards, and kit it out with similar sort of hardware for probably more than what the console would cost still, with the same sort of power. And actually, like, if you look at the Series X, it's like a little box tower thing. It probably wouldn't be much bigger than that. And you could just have like a keyboard and mouse and or just a mouse really, and just whip your keyboard out for when you needed to do certain stuff, wireless, and still use your controller no problem.
I do think that's the advantage that consoles maybe still have over PC is they're much more portable. So if I wanted to drag my PC downstairs, it would be a huge pain in the ass because I have 3 monitors, I have my case, I have all my peripherals. So I do think that is the advantage that console still has. But I guess my question is it enough?
Well, yeah, but you could still plug your PC into your TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like I said, get a Raspberry Pi. There are various ways to stream to a TV. And if I was serious about playing a game, I could play it on my computer, obviously. If I was serious about seeing the beauty of a game, I probably would play it on my computer. Now, of course, sometimes you just want to chill and lay on the couch. But again, there are ways to, make that happen without necessarily having to get a console. And I actually recently purchased an Xbox custom controller because I do love their controller.
Right.
And I'm able to use that with my PC. So I'm still able to use whatever controller I want with my PC. And actually, I have options. If I like the PlayStation controller better, I could find a PlayStation style controller. Yeah. So I don't know. I love consoles just because of the nostalgia in me. But I'm just not at the point where I feel like I want to buy one yet versus like adding something to my PC.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll come down to exclusives for people. And obviously, unless they're a fanboy and blindsided by their love for Sony or Microsoft. And there are loads of them. I don't know why, but there are loads of them. It is what it is. But then actually, to be fair, if you are a fan of a particular franchise, like some of the racing titles, like Gran Turismo, for instance, will only be on PlayStation and whatever, and your exclusive is probably going to be on PlayStation. Like obviously, Sony are the publishers for Square Enix, so Final. So if the next installments of Final Fantasy are probably going to be exclusive. So there is that, and I think that's what it has to boil down to. I don't know how else you'd pick between, unless the Series X manages to harness its power that little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that because, quite frankly, I don't have any plans of buying a console, but I do know that if, it comes down to being able to play the Final Fantasy game, Snack Daddy's gonna want that new PlayStation, he says.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we would certainly purchase it so that he'd be able to do that. So I do think the exclusives are going to be the benefit. And then
Yeah.
just being able to have it portable is just a nice little bonus. But I think exclusives are probably top of my list and reasons of why I would get a console.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so a bit of Twitch news. The biggest story this week on Twitch is that Twitch's Safety Advisory Council rollout has been a disaster. So basically, Twitch announced a new Safety Advisory Council intended to provide some input on some of Twitch's most pernicious issues, including work-life balance, safety and moderation, and protection of marginalized groups. So obviously, what Twitch didn't say was that these people are not working for Twitch. It's literally like some kind of focus group, like a subgroup, where they take the opinions. They won't necessarily be making, well, they won't be making any decisions at all. So on the back of this, they were announced, and inclusive was a few streamers in this. Now, there is a streamer here called Ferociously Steph. She is trans, uses the pronouns, likes the pronouns she. And basically what happened was she made a few comments about that she thought that voice chat should be taken out of competitive games like first person shooters and that sort of thing. And when people asked why, she suggested that certain players would be at a disadvantage depending on their voice. And people were sort of a bit confused and sort of asked for a bit more information. And she went on to say that basically if you were a CIS male, white male, then you would have privilege on by your voice. Which, I mean, straight away from me, I know that obviously certain races have stereotypes of voices, but can you always tell what color somebody is by how they speak? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I could sort of understand, like, obviously a classic female voice to a male voice. Maybe I could probably understand that a little bit more. And then it sort of erupted. I think some people sort of got the wrong end of the stick. Even though it was said, so some people took it slightly out of context, and then they had some extreme far right leaning people who had a big problem with what she said. But she didn't really help the situation. She would start dancing around when these people would come in and argue, but she absolutely stands by what she said, and she's made tweets. She's now it's been taken out of context in places by people saying like, oh, she basically said that white people shouldn't be playing online chat. That's not true. It's not what she said. But the thing is, if you're going to be somebody who is a member of this council against marginalization, I am all for equality and stuff, but how can you say that we know that there's a problem in this world with privilege and race, but if you want to create an environment that is nothing to do with that and away from all that, and you start throwing out there that if you're a privileged white male and you're using the chat, then you're going to have an advantage. I don't really see how that's going to help in any way at all, because all you're going to do is rile people who do have the wrong impression of what their race means and what it means to be a white male. And in my opinion, honestly, even though there's certain issues that need to be addressed, I feel like if we keep talking about it like this, how are we ever gonna get away from it? Or the only way we're gonna normalize everybody playing these games, or people from different races, cultures, male, female, LGBTQT plus whatever, semi-aquatic toaster, if that's how you identify, then surely the way we normalize it is it's just a thing, and that's all, nothing more than a thing, and we're not bringing it up and having a big issue with it, because I feel like that pushes people in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess for me, like I do agree with her on a fundamental level,
of
right?
course,
Like
of
there,
course,
I don't really like the word privilege just because it feels,
yeah,
I don't know, there's connotations around privilege. But like it's very clear that, you know, if a female comes into chat, and I know that's been a big issue with Valorant, the new game coming
right,
out.
right,
Is that females come in chat and they are at a disadvantage compared to, for example, like a male, because they're pretty much flamed or trolled,
yeah,
or
yeah, exactly,
I mean, they just deal with so much. So there's a
yeah,
clear
of course,
disadvantage there. So if you're playing competitively
hmm,
and your team can't get over the fact that you have boobies,
yeah,
then you know it is a
yeah, of
problem. And
course,
I guess I don't feel so bad about her calling it out, because I do think we need to raise awareness about the issue. And
hmm,
I think like the far right, or the people who got super offended and are taking it out of context, they're just
yeah,
being,
but
they were gonna do that about something, right?
yeah, but she was talking, she wasn't really talking about sex. She was talking about white privilege males.
Yeah,
That's
that
and
one's hard to
that's
comment on just because I'm clearly, you know, white
yeah,
myself. It's a little
yeah,
hard to comment
I know,
on.
but that I mean, in my opinion, that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion though.
That's
But
I guess my
also, yeah,
no,
go
go
on.
ahead.
No, you
Oh,
go.
I guess my opinion is like, I'm trying to think of how to word this tactfully. You can sometimes tell somebody's ethnicity based on their speaking mannerisms, because there are certain cultures and races
Of
who have different
course.
mannerisms. And I would assume that if you were ethnic of any sort of region, that you probably are going to get trolled, and you probably are at a bit of a disadvantage. And
Mm,
I would assume this because I know people still use racial slurs. I had an
they
issue
do.
with it in my stream one
Oh,
time, which
right.
was
Wow.
awful. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to deal with. So I guess I can kind of see where she's coming from.
Mm.
You know, I don't like the language necessarily. I don't like the word privilege. It's just such a strong word, and it has specific connotations to me.
Well,
Advantage.
obviously, I've. The thing is, I mean, white privilege is probably a lot more of a thing actually over here, because when I lived in the States, there were some
Mhm,
really poor white people in the
mhm.
States, and of course, black people were oppressed for many many years, which we know about. But like that, and I'm not trying to say the same, that it's the same, because I
Mhm.
don't believe it is the same. But when you say white privilege, and you talking about people who have like nothing and they're white,
Yeah.
how is that? How is that privilege? I'm not saying that they might have potential other opportunities better than other race groups because of the color of their skin,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that's not a privilege. Like if you grow up in if you're born into a really really poor part of town, you are at a massive disadvantage. There is no privilege.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it
Certainly.
isn't a thing. So the privilege is really
Yeah.
bad. Um,
But I do think, you know, when you're online, I think it's important to keep in mind people can't tell your financial status either.
no,
Uh,
exactly.
so
And that,
I think that, which is why I don't really like the word privilege. Like, I'd say more of like you're at maybe an advantage because your team is less likely to troll you and more likely to
yeah,
cooperate with you to a degree, right? Like
yeah.
it doesn't matter what race or gender you are.
Mm.
If you suck, somebody's going to be a dick about it. They just,
Yeah,
you know,
what?
and even if you're good, sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're the reason we're losing," when it's really them. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no getting around it. But I think I don't want to get away from voice chat though. Like I disagree with taking voice chat out.
yeah.
I
You see,
think what
that's
we
what
should
she
do,
wants.
yeah, see, I disagree with that. Like while I agree with the issue,
Yeah, there's definitely an issue.
and raising awareness, I think the answer is not taking voice chat out. I think the answer is educating people and telling people to act like adults, and, you know, catch up to the times, and stop being trolls and stop being asses, right?
Yeah,
Like I think, you know, because if you take it out of voice chat, it's still going to go on. right? Like
Yeah,
it's
of
still a
course.
societal problem. And, it could still happen. Let's say you take it out of competitive voice chat, but then, you're in a guild on World of Warcraft or you're doing a raid, like you can still experience it there. And there's really no way around it. Sometimes in World of Warcraft, you cannot raid unless you are on voice.
Yeah.
So taking it away from that area, I don't think it's going to fix the problem. I think what'll fix the problem is calling it out, calling people out,
Yeah.
saying like, stop acting like an ass,
Yeah.
banning trolls, harsher
Yeah.
punishments for acting,
Yeah.
that way. I
Yeah.
think that would be more of the way to approach it, is actually make people better instead of just hiding
Yeah.
their outlet, because they're going to find another outlet.
So I think this is why Nintendo, they don't have voice chat on their games. You can add friends and chat through an app, but they don't have it. And I think because it's a family sort of orientated company, that's the reason they haven't got to it yet, because I don't think they feel like they could police it to a level they would be satisfied with. Whereas obviously from the first time I went on Xbox Live, I'd hear people saying, there's I don't ever remember any problems with race, or anybody being sexist, but people would get pissed off with each other and then start saying, I'm going to kill you fucking family. And like,
I remember those days.
Yeah, you get shit like that, but there was no real way of like, you could report them, I think. Yeah, you could block them and report them, but did anything ever happen?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Not
I mean,
really.
I probably wouldn't have reported them, to be honest, because it really wouldn't. It really didn't bother me, so I just blocked them or whatever. But
I mean, the thing is, when you report them or when you block them in some games as well, you'll still get matched with them sometimes.
Yeah.
I've noticed that in a few games, and I can't recall which particular games, but in the past I have had issues with like I blocked someone, but I could still end up in a match with them.
Yeah.
And
so
I was like, how does that work? I don't know if it was a bug at the time, but if that's still going on in any games, and I hope it's not, I hope that's not an issue any longer, then, that's certainly a problem. But with reporting, you never know if something's going to happen
think,
or not.
I'd imagine how the algorithm works is like the more reports that a person has against them, the further it is, further it is up the list for getting checked. But like, if you like options to maybe clip parts of the voice chat that happened, where she is right about calling this sort of stuff out, obviously she's gone about it in the wrong way. I think she went on to say later, after all of this, you'd think that she'd probably try, as if she was part of this council, maybe be a bit more professional, but she actually went on to say on her live stream that she was in a position of power and people should be scared of her because she's got power and she'll crush anybody who tries to go against, whatever stuff she doesn't agree with. And I'm like, well, people are annoyed because you've said white privilege. If you want to be like all, if you want to be all open and for everybody, then you can't go against people, whether they're like the majority in your country or not. It's got the point of being equal and equal rights is that it's equal. You don't attack a group and say, well, because not everybody's like that. So that's the thing that really annoys me because I'm all equal, but being equal for me means I don't actually care. I don't actually care for pushing your side particularly. Like do I care for pushing gay rights? No, I don't care for pushing them because I think the gay rights is just right. Yeah. Would I argue that it's right against somebody who's telling me it's wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely. But do I care? No. So are you going to get my attention by saying this has to be this? Probably not, because I probably agree with you. But am I going to listen to if you're telling me what I should think? Probably not.
Yeah. I do think, and I'm not sure how she said it. I didn't see it, but I do think that just in general with the world, there is a difference between raising awareness, because I do think there needs to be awareness raised for a lot of these issues,
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
rights or females in gaming.
Yeah.
But I think when you're trying to raise awareness, you also have to keep in mind that you're working with other groups,
Yeah,
because I know
exactly.
like the traditional group that everyone's like, well, this is the king group, is like the cis white
Yeah.
male. So then it's all, well, like I mean, I've actually seen hate comments toward being a cis white male, which I fully disagree with.
Of course.
But you have to understand we're all working together.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, I don't know how she said it. I'm just talking in general about, I've seen comments where it's like they push for rights and equality, but then they're attacking another group. And while I think awareness needs to be raised, we're
Mm.
all on the same team. At least that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same team,
Yeah.
whether you're more or less privileged. It
I-
doesn't matter. We're trying to get equal.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting thing. Like, there's so many, like, this is why as well, there's like so many forms of feminism now, right? Because
Mhm.
there are feminists who are, and this isn't the majority, and I don't know enough about the subject, but I know there are feminists who are actively against men, like
Yeah.
actively discouraging men from different stuff. There are
Yeah.
feminists who are just like, no, we're just equal, and we can do
And
everything the man can do. And
to be
it's like
honest, like the ones who are against men kind of
ruin
are
it.
like the female version of incels.
Well,
I'm just gonna call it like I see it. I'm sorry.
It's
If
true.
you're like completely against men, you're just a female incel.
Well, that's it, and that is the truth, though, isn't it? Because if you want equal rights, it's equal, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're all humans. That's how I see it. We're all humans.
Exactly.
As long as you're not harming somebody else,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we all know that's wrong. But I mean, we're all humans. As long as you're not harming someone else or attacking someone else, I see no problem with living however you want to
wanna
live, or
live,
however
yeah,
your
exactly.
belief system is, but we're all humans at the end of the day, regardless of color or gender.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to realize we're on the same team. We live on the same planet. And when you work together and when everyone excels, then it's good for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think the problem is maybe we came I think I've said before, there's a golden age when I like left school where everybody my age, not necessarily older generations, or like a huge vast majority, like maybe 95% of people I went to school with. Bear in mind I went to a school that was like 95% white as well, where nobody cared. Like my friends didn't care. Like, and it wasn't like it was just my group of friends. It was like nobody cared what color you were. Like they didn't care. People started coming out at school.
yeah.
There's a few immature people, of course, but you're always going to get that in life. But after like that had died down, nobody cared. Like nobody cared.
Yeah.
I feel like there are a small minority of people who are doing these equal rights causes, and sometimes they are actually nothing to do with the movement either themselves. Like they don't know how it feels to be in that position, and they are pushing so hard and telling people what they should be doing. Pronouns is like a good example. Like if somebody wants me to call them whatever, I don't care. That's fine. It makes no difference to me, does it? And actually nobody has to do that, and their beliefs don't have to change. It can just be like, well, that's fine. If you want to be called that, be called that. And actually I wouldn't have to change my beliefs. It doesn't matter, does it? But there are people who are like, for example, not in the LGBTQ plus community themselves. And of course they're right to be like have an opinion and stuff, but sometimes they're pushing it so far and telling people what they can and can't say and do, and it's like, this isn't helping the cause. This is just fueling people on the far right, extremists, with their hate.
Absolutely.
Because they'll say, oh, this person's telling you what to do, which is actually wrong. You shouldn't be telling people what to do. You should stand up for what's right if you're in a discussion with somebody, but you shouldn't be telling people what they should and shouldn't say.
Yeah, well, so in my experience, this is just a basic communication skill. If you are in an argument with anybody over anything, then pushing and telling them that they're wrong and that their opinion is wrong, any sort of criticism, it's not going to go over well. You're not going to win them to your side. You're just going to create a divide. And I think while these issues are important, I think that and being an ally is important, raising awareness is important. I agree with all of that, but understand that your beliefs abide by the same communication skills as everything else. In order to get people onto your side, there's a certain tact and way that you have to approach it. Just like if you were in a business meeting, criticizing your other coworkers over what they're doing is not going to get them to do better or do differently, right?
Exactly.
So you have to have a discussion. You have to meet both in the middle, both of you, be open to each other's opinions and explain, not tell someone, well, this is why you should think this way, but this is why I think this way.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll come over and maybe they won't, but and I'm a big believer in not everyone needs to agree with you. Not everyone needs to be on your side. Like, yes, I'd like for everyone to be in support of gay rights. That's what I personally believe.
Course, yeah.
But if they aren't on that side, like you're going to have some people who no matter what proof or evidence you get them, they're not going to agree. I mean, we have flat earthers, right? But I don't need the flat earthers to believe the earth is round for A, the earth to be round, or B, for the majority to agree that the earth is round.
Absolutely.
Right? The textbooks will still say the earth is round. You're going to have some people, not everybody's going to come to your side. And I think those people just ignore, don't argue with them, don't fight with them. And, if you want to argue with them and fight with them, that's your prerogative. But I don't see it helping is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be wasting your energy on that, and it's going to be more of a disadvantage to you than it is to them.
Yeah,
because they're not listening.
So I see quite a few women on Twitter who will have had bad experiences in these like first person shooter chats usually.
Yeah.
Which obviously is wrong. Majority of people would agree that's wrong. They shouldn't have to feel that. But what they do is they go on Twitter and say, "Oh, this happened and this happened," and it does happen, and people should be aware. But so what did they do? They just quit. Now I'm not saying they should have to sit there and put up with it, but I'm a big believer, like, you can't, even if it really bothers you, you've got to try, right? And if you want things to change, you've got to try. And if you leave, they've got exactly what they want. Whereas if you try and be rational and balanced, even though they're really irrational and balanced, even if they don't change at all, and some people won't, maybe in front of everyone else, you can make them look like an idiot just by being rational and calm. I'm not saying it's always easy, and it's varying degrees of trolling that goes on. But there's the way I've always dealt with trolls in my channel. Because I've been trolled, like, by, there's a guy who comes in that just puts sexual things all the time, like under different names, like that. It's not. I'm not going to be very offended by it, because I'm certainly not bothered by, like, that. They're not. They tend to be like homosexual things, which doesn't really bother me. I'm a straight male, but that doesn't bother me, so I'm not going to get upset by that. Most of it gets blocked anyway. He just tries to find clever ways of getting around the filters, but I'm just like so he's an infamous Mario Maker 2 troll, does it to all the Mario Maker 2 streamers, and some people are like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this guy. He just keeps coming in," and I'm like, to be honest, he does still come in mine a little bit, but barely, because he gets no rise out of me. Because I'm just like, okay, and he's blocked. Just go, okay, he's blocked, and he'll follow as soon as I block him, and he's blocked. And the chat know now. They don't even bat an eyelid, because they know who it is, and he gets no reaction out of them either. But some people get super mad. And then there was one particular guy on Twitter who got really mad, and was blaming, and then started blaming his mods as well for not catching them, and he was just getting so angry, and I was like, you're just giving them exactly what they want. Now, I'm not saying that it's right and you should put up with it, but if we're going to move forward and people are going to agree that these things are wrong, immature, xenophobic, whatever, then we need to accept, though, that it is a thing. But we're not going to go away by getting mad and trying to block and stay away from these people, it's going to be resolved by what you were saying, Nick, being rational, and making them look stupid through calm and rational argument rather than getting shocked but and appalled by it. Because the people who are making out on Twitter, they're shocked and appalled by it, and some of the stuff is shocking, and you probably should be shocked and appalled. But is it more shocking than stuff you've seen in a movie? Is it more shocking than stuff you've seen on your TV? I doubt it. So just how shocked and appalled are you? You know, it's this rage thing, shock culture, and whereas I'm not saying it's right at all, but maybe we've got to like just meet it head on, and that's the way we're going to push it, not by segregation. That's the last thing we want. We don't want to be.
You were talking about making the trolls look stupid. Someone who I really love, who the way she handles it, I really actually love it. She does get upset and yells at them, but doesn't let it get to her at the same time. But you know, she calls them out. She's basically like, I'm not going to put up with that bullshit. And the streamer is Rora Pickles. I don't know if you've heard of her. It's R-O-R-A.
Yes, I have.
Pickle. I love her videos where someone will like say something about, you know, their pee-pee, or ask her about her boobs or something. And like her reactions are absolutely hilarious. It's great content, which she said before. She's like, you're just giving me more content. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
And the way she handles it is hilarious, because I imagine if you're a troll and you came in, you'd feel pretty stupid.
Yeah.
After her reaction, you'd be like, well, I'm going to leave now. Right? Like, I'd imagine that she makes you feel stupid. And I actually think it's really clever and really funny. In my channel, I typically don't react, but at the same time, you know, sometimes you want to call them out. And I think that's good. I think we do need to call them out sometimes. But don't
absolutely.
Let them get you, because I mean, and it's easier said than done, but don't let them get to you. If someone says you're ugly, like what do they fucking know? Right? What do they know? So yeah, call them out or ignore them, however you choose to do it, but just don't let them get to you if you can help it.
What I usually do is I look at the camera and I say, I wonder what would be so wrong in somebody's life that they would feel the need to go into a random chat
100%.
and do this. Like, what's the problem?
And
I'll look at the camera and go, what's the matter? You know, you can talk to me. You can say anything you like. I'm not bothered. You find that they pretty soon they'll leave you alone, because you're not going to go, what are you doing? Get out of my chat. I don't want any of this in here, because then they're just going to come back with another username. Yeah,
I love that. And I think that's such a good point. Like, I was thinking the other day, so someone had called Rora ugly. Like, they came in her chat and called her ugly. And I was thinking, like, females have to deal with that sometimes. You have someone calling you ugly, but what kind of, first of all, who knows what they look like, right? Like, they have the safety of hiding behind a screen and using a random profile picture. Two, what does it matter? Maybe you aren't conventionally attractive. What does it matter, right? I mean, realistically, what does it fucking matter? A woman's worth is not in her looks, you know, and I'm not on Twitch for a beauty contest. Three, beauty is so subjective. Yeah, some people are going to think you're ugly. That's just life.
It's probably
not going to find you attractive.
Probably the most subjective feature of
some
a person.
People,
the most subjective.
Yeah. So why would I care if somebody calls me ugly? It's like, okay, you think I'm ugly. That's probably true. You probably do think that, but other people don't. And there's no person in the world that someone doesn't find ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not really attracted to that person. That's just how life is. So I find it so funny that is such a go-to response for trolls to use with women, because it's like, okay, so like, well, I don't understand why I give a shit. I don't understand. And that's what Roar was like. I don't give a shit. Why would I care? And it's so true.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you can try and say what you want. Most of it's blocked, but I don't care. You won't upset me.
Yeah. So I think, calling them out is really good. And I think, going back to these women talking about the trolls that get them on Twitter, I do think it's good to actually announce on Twitter, just because, again, it's raising awareness. The hope is that if enough voices get out there, maybe, like, for example, maybe the warrant would take notice and be like, okay, like, we have a problem. Let's like actually solve it. Because if they don't see how prevalent it is or how much it's upsetting the community, they might do nothing, right? So I do think that's good, but I agree. I think, and I'm not saying everyone should push through it. Some people have social anxiety. Some people it really does hurt.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people
of
have
course.
body dysmorphic, body image issues, and maybe being called ugly really affects them, and that's really
Yeah, of
upsetting.
course. Yeah,
Um, but maybe some of us women who can handle it or who are stronger with that, maybe it's our time to shine
I
and
think
stay
so.
on voice chat and call them out and
I
say
think
they're
so.
fucking stupid. Like
'Cause
I think that would potentially help the
yeah,
problem. I mean, worst case scenario, the trolls get super upset, but eventually, then what,
that
right?
that
I mean, you can only
actually,
do that for so long.
yeah, that actually links to something else, right? Because if you say you've got some kind of mental condition like body dysmorphia, for
Yeah.
instance, now it's wrong, right, that would stop you streaming. Like, I think most
Yeah.
people would agree that. But at the same time, there are many other things that you could do as hobbies or
Mhm.
professions that wouldn't be recommended to you if you
Yeah.
had body dysmorphia, right? Like,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be a model if you have body dysmorphia, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it would play with all your demons, surely. Not that I know
Yeah.
what that's like, of course, but I'm just trying to like use a vague example.
Yeah.
But
Well, actually, a good example, I have social anxiety and I stream, which
yeah,
seems
exactly.
counterintuitive. And sometimes I do have issues with my social anxiety getting in the way of like, oh shit, I need to like do this or do that. And
Yeah.
it's like I get nervous. And I think it's a good growth point. I think it's a really good growth point. So of course I'm in therapy and I'm getting help for it.
Yeah,
But I do think you're right. You need to recognize that if you choose to put yourself out there,
yes.
you need to know what your triggers are and what
Yeah.
could possibly happen.
Yeah.
Like if you had body dysmorphia
Yeah.
and you decided to be a model, you would have to understand that while that is a really good growth point for you, while you're really putting yourself
Yeah.
out there and working on your demons, and you should be in
Yeah.
therapy just as an extra support mechanism, you need to understand that you will be faced with other models being like, oh, I'm not skinny enough, or oh, I'm eating too much, or like there's gonna be triggers there,
Well,
right?
yeah, I've seen documentaries with like photographers and fashionistas, and they'll look at these stick thin models and they'll be go, oh no, she's too big,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes the models are there, like when they're taking photographers there going, oh no, she's too big, and it's like
Yeah.
these models are stick thin, and I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Just
like you say, you got to
a good
know.
parallel for trolls, right? Because
Yeah.
like the model's not too big.
No.
I mean, she's perfectly fine the way she is. And so trolls are going to attack you. They're going to say stuff that is probably not true or is very subjective in just their opinion. And so I think it's okay to stream with like body dysmorphia and social anxiety and stuff. But you do have to be aware this stuff exists. It just does right now. And I
Yeah.
wish it didn't. And it
Mm.
sucks that it does, but it does. I think preparing for it and knowing your triggers and thinking about how you want to handle it, what you want to do in that situation, and rationalizing, okay, well, they think I'm ugly, but like they're the only, like it's only their opinion and stuff like that. I think that's a good way to handle it. So I do
Yeah.
think, if you are really bothered by what people say online or what males say to you in a voice chat, definitely block them.
Yeah.
But certainly expect that it's going to happen right now, and hopefully eventually
Yeah,
will not.
Yeah,
Or at least
prepare.
a lot
Just
less.
prepare yourself for
Prepare for it.
what is
I
an
know.
eventuality for a lot of women on the street.
Yeah, because it's a pain in the ass. I mean, personally, I don't talk in voice just because I don't want to deal with it. It's not that I couldn't. It's just like it's an extra pain in the ass. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to chill and have fun in a game. Granted, I don't play competitively, so I don't need voice.
Yeah, I think
People certainly troll my skills, but I mean, yeah, I suck. So I'm still allowed to play. I can have fun.
I think that
Competitive.
she might have been able to take more weight in her with her argument because what she was saying was it should be stopped and there should be an alternative method for communicating in game. That's fine, but you don't have a method. You've not suggested anything or any way around it. And
there's no method that's going to be quick.
No, not what's going to be more quick than your voice, like because you're not using your hands, you can't even to press a button to communicate or press another button. If you play in a first person shooter, your fingers and thumbs are occupied, right? You can't be moving them around. So,
and pings are only so effective. I mean, they only give you part of the picture, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, you can ping,
you
but
can say retreat, but you can't say like what side they're coming from. Like, are they flanking from the left or right?
Right, exactly.
Who knows? Maybe they retreat the wrong way and they get smacked.
So, whereas her argument about issues that are important is there somewhere, but she's muddled it into something that is, she's muddled it into an argument the wrong way.
I just think the solution is not optimal. Yeah. Which, I appreciate that she's trying to provide a solution and that she cares enough to provide a solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
I certainly, from a personal standpoint, disagree with the solution. I realistically, the real solution is people stop sucking. But that's going to take some work, honestly, from all of us.
Of course it is.
That's hard, and it's going to take time.
I'm sure we'll get there. I mean, look how far we've come in 100 years.
Yeah. It'll just take time.
Look how far we've come in 40 years, 50 years. It's a different world for what we accept. It's like,
certainly.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still places where, and still many countries where it's not come very far, but on the whole, we're going in the right direction. And you got to think, like, even 30, 40 years ago, it was a very taboo thing to be gay, just straight gay. Before people were really announcing that they were transsexual or pans or whatever, just to be gay was a big deal. No, so few people even bat an eyelid now in comparison to the way it was, you think, 30, 40 years ago. And how many people feel comfortable with coming out and they have communities that they can be part of if they want to. So I think, but that only happened on the back of, before my time, and there was an article about it, actually, that I came across about a man who was there was a pub attacked. That's right, there was a pub attacked in London. There was a pub attacked in London in Soho, which is like the gay district or the LGBTQ plus now districts, whatever, where people are generally pretty accepting of anything. There was a bomb and there was people killed because of their sexual preference. This was in the 80s, I believe. But they knew at the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that should have happened. Of course it shouldn't have happened. And those people shouldn't have to be martyrs. They knew at the time it was frowned upon by probably the majority of society at that time. But they just went out and did their thing. Now, obviously, nobody deserves to be blown up. Whatever. Nobody. They just went out and did their thing. They weren't going around trying to push people's faces into things and saying this is not right and this is right. They just went about their days. They were brave. They didn't push, but they told people what they were, and that was it. And then eventually, obviously, people came around because they integrated with people, and people were like, you know what, they're just a person, and that's all they are, just the same as I am. And then it comes, further down the line, and people are more comfortable with being trans, and we will get there, but it's going to take time.
I think there are some historical leaders that we could really learn from in these instances. I really do. So when you think of like Martin Luther King Jr., he was a powerful voice. He raised awareness. He did, marches. But the way he handled things was very, very calm, very accepting, very talk to people. And Abraham Lincoln is known for, in his younger days, he criticized people a lot. But then as he got older, he was known to not criticize, to always try to compliment and think about how much he changed. So I think that meeting people halfway and just being people and talking to people, you can raise awareness. You can really change the world without being aggressive in your views, and again, I'm not commenting on this specific streamer because I haven't seen what she said, but I'm just commenting in general. I
Yeah,
do think you could change the world without necessarily being aggressive. And that maybe that's more effective
absolutely.
in my opinion. And I'm not going to tell you how to, speak your voice or raise awareness, but I do think that if you do want real change, you have to weigh what's more effective versus not effective. If your goal is real change, then you do have to consider what's more effective. And
Yeah,
interestingly
of
enough,
course.
there was a black man who talked to a lot of KKK members and
Yes,
is
yes,
responsible,
seen
right?
it.
Is
Yeah,
responsible for having a lot of them retire.
yeah,
And when you think of the way he talked to them and approached them and then got the result that he
yeah,
wanted, he
yeah,
got them to retire, he got them to change their view. You think of the way he approached them, I think we could learn something so amazing
yeah,
from that.
yeah,
So I do think
absolutely.
that these things need to change, but sometimes we get so upset and that might get in the way of our real goal,
Yeah,
which is affecting actual change. Now if you just want to vent, that's perfectly fine. I want to vent sometimes. Venting is its own thing, but if your real goal is to affect actual change, I think you have to be very strategic in the way that you approach things and how you carry these conversations. So I think
yeah,
venting and then trying to enact change are two different conversation types. And so know maybe what it is that your goal is and what you're trying to do in that situation. Are you trying to just vent and say like, screw this? Or are you trying to really get someone to see your side and make a difference?
yeah. This and so one of our somebody who ran for prime minister in this country is named Jeremy Corbyn. Um, there was loads of far right propaganda about him talking with members of the IRA. Now, the IRA stands for Provisional Irish Republican Army, and obviously there's a lot of problems between the UK and Ireland, and always has been. Things are much better at the moment, thankfully, but there's still a lot of problems. Um, and basically, the IRA wanted the whole of Ireland back for Ireland. Don't need to get into the details about rights or wrongs, um, but there was British soldiers did things that were questionable in Ireland, and the IRA terrorists put bombs, in bins in London. And so Jeremy Corbyn, around election time, by these far right extremists. I'm not a supporter, by the way, of Jeremy Corbyn, but there'd be pictures of him from like the 80s and the early 90s when problems were really strong, and they'd post these pictures of him talking to prominent members of the IRA and say, look, he's a terrorist sympathizer. And it's like, well, how are we going to get peace by
Yeah.
how do we expect to get peace if we don't talk to them? And that's what he was over there doing. That's what he was in Ireland doing. He was to talk to them. Because if you segregate yourself, you're going to get suspicious of each other, and then that's how wars begin. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I think, like with what you say, Martin Luther King, it wasn't about attacking the white man. It was about standing up for what was right
Yeah.
and being equal. And he
Hmm.
held many talks to help do that. Many, many, many talks. And he
Hmm.
encouraged people to stand up in peaceful protest as well. Completely
Hmm.
peaceful protest. And eventually as well, what happened was, people were doing they were doing peaceful protests, and they were coming out with water cannons. And eventually,
Yeah.
people see that and they're like, hang on a minute, they're not. But they did it right. They did it completely right, and MLK was the catalyst for that. But I think this translates to so many situations, and it's the same. It's not as important, but it's the same with trolls. Exactly
Hmm.
the same with trolls,
Absolutely.
and probably and bullies probably as well. I'd say anything like that in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to know who you can talk with, know who's, irrational or just looking for a rise and you can't talk to, like you're not going to get through. Separate them out,
Yeah,
and then the people you can talk to, the people who actually, you might be able to, you know, raise awareness for something, then have, you know, a positive discourse on it. Share your ideas and your beliefs and why you think that way, and don't criticize and don't attack. Again, if your goal is to, you know, have a positive outcome versus, again, you're welcome to vent, but understand what vent does and doesn't accomplish, and know the difference between them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, last up today is Twitch is booming. We know about this. It's booming. There have been 140 job openings at Twitch in California, specifically for esports jobs, from developers to promoters and all that kind of thing. We already know Twitch is booming, and we spoke about how Twitch taking the esports thing seriously is going to be incredibly important, and they are not doing things by halves. They are really investing in this. So we discussed the esports thing on the whole before, and it sort of cements what we thought. They're getting fully behind it. I don't think there's much really to say because we spoke about it before, but
well, I actually just want to chime in and say real quick, we've had conversations about Twitch versus Mixer versus YouTube.
We have.
And one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of companies, for example, think of Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster did not hop on the trend that like Redbox or Netflix did, and so they went out of business. And there's certainly potential when you have another company to take some of your business and potentially put you out of business, with Mixer and with YouTube gaming and Facebook gaming and stuff, that certainly could negatively affect Twitch. I appreciate that they really were like, no, I'm not going to rest on my laurels. I'm not going to expect for things to go the same that they always have. They're going to innovate. And sure, esports doesn't seem innovative. It doesn't seem particularly new, but it's something that they're really investing and really pushing, that's going to elevate them above the competition. I think that's really cool and says a lot about the future of Twitch in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are particularly pushing a lot of content that is not to do with gaming, but they know that gaming is their bread and butter, and the esports thing is just go on now. Esports section, it's there. They know how much money's in it because it raises sponsorship. People, it raises great players. They're going in the right direction without no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
The only thing is, I'm just interested to see, and I never see anything coming from. We've got Facebook gaming now, YouTube gaming, Mixer. I never see them doing anything that Twitch hasn't already done yet, or very little. I'm not seeing it. Like Mixer's got Microsoft behind it. Why? What are they doing? Like, they've got so much money. Why are they not investing in saying, do you know what? We're going to do this because they're not doing it. Why are they not trying to outflank Twitch? Because that could only work positive for everybody, right? If the competition was a bit stronger. But I don't see it from them at all. One
thing I want to see one company do that I think is the future of live streaming. So I think live streaming is so much more than gaming. It can be so much more than gaming. And we know this. I mean, look at just chatting and how well it does. And I think if I worked at Twitch or a live streaming company, we've seen in the past where, for example, Mixer paid to get specific streamers. I would pay to get specific like Instagram influencers or, YouTube stars and have them bring live content that's more than gaming. You would get a new fan base. I mean, think about that. If you have like an Instagram model or a lifestyle vlogger or something come to Twitch and they bring all of these people with them who never otherwise would have been on Twitch because maybe they're not interested in video games. That's such potential for growth. And I really do think that's, the future of streaming. I think people are interested in other people, not just people playing games, but people doing all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah,
cooking, drawing,
makeup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
makeup's a massive one, and not just the special effects makeup either. Just like giving tips in their everyday makeup.
Absolutely. And if you had these people, like, for example, a beauty influencer who has several million Instagram followers, and you pay her to maybe stream to Twitch like once a week. I mean, you're bringing in all of these people who are gonna want to see that,
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
otherwise would not have joined Twitch. Now, I know there are other outlets for it, but I don't think any outlet is quite like Twitch. Obviously,
No,
I
there
love
isn't.
Twitch. I'm on Twitch. There's Instagram stories; they have to be short, right? There's
Yeah.
YouTube videos. That's not live. You can do YouTube live,
And
but
they
I
have
don't
to be
think
heavily
they're as well
edited
as
as
Twitch.
well.
Absolutely.
Not everybody has the time and or knowledge to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an exciting time.
Yeah. I think that'd
Twitch.
be a great thing to do. Just another way to really elevate them above the competition, because someone's going to do that at some point. Someone's going to win over the non-gamers, right? The
Right.
live
Right.
content. It's not gaming. Someone's
Yeah, of
going to get it.
course.
And I think Twitch is in the position to get that with how well
Definitely.
they're doing just chatting right now. So I'm kind of curious to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. We will look out for it. All right, that wraps it up for today. Thanks a lot for watching / listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.